graduation. This seemingly simple question may be easily answered by some, but to others could prove quite difficult. There's always the excitement that comes from graduating high school and stepping into a new chapter of life. For many seniors, the anticipation for college is immense, and the hard work throughout 4 years has paid off through acceptance to a university. Yet for a few, they didn't quite make the cut. Abigail Fisher was one of those students who worked so hard in high school only to be rejected by the college of her choice, the University of Texas. She felt she was rejected due to an affirmative action law put in place that race could be used as a factor when determining acceptance after the top 10% law. Fisher, being white, felt she was actually being discriminated against because UT accepted students with other racial backgrounds with the same academic merit, but that was not the case. Under the 14th Amendment, she felt it was her constitutional right for equal protection of the laws. This hit to the University of Texas led into a case in the Supreme Court, where both sides would argue their view on affirmative action. In opposition to Fisher's claims, the university insists that although the top 10% law does include people of all races, factoring race in the remaining admissions helps increase the ethnic background of the college. Fisher cited the argument is that the affirmative action law for race-conscious admissions actually creates a negative educational environment with heightened racial tensions and stigmatization. More specifically, Cato argues that race-conscious policies reinforce stereotypes that minorities are unable to achieve success on their own, stated by Santoro and Worth in their article. While this policy is supposed to promote the acceptance of minorities into higher education, it could cause multiple problems while doing so. In the same article, the Center for Individual Rights also shows that minorities that benefit from these programs end up underperforming compared to other students who are accepted by academic merit. In this picture, we see Abigail Fisher in front of the Supreme Court before a proceeding. UT School Administrator said, "We must have the flexibility to consider each applicant's unique experiences and background so that we can provide the best environment in which to educate and train the students who will be our nation's future leaders," stated by mayors and justices to re-examine the use of race in college admissions. Race is not the only factor in determining this, just another one along with essays, leadership, community service, extracurricular activities, and etc. They believe that this method could provide a growing opportunity for historically underrepresented racial groups, said Santoro and Worth. They claim that this holistic admission process benefits the student body as a whole. They are not establishing an admission basis that discriminates against whites, simply factoring in every part of applicants. The university also claims that there is not enough diversity through just the top 10% law, due to largely segregated high schools. Another argument in the favor of Fisher in the idea that the University of Texas had achieved great diversity already just through the top 10% law. According to the SCOTUS blog, even before 2004 and the return that year of the use of race in admissions, the university had already become one of the most diverse public universities in the nation, according to the petition. Thus, it had no real reason for returning to the use of a race-based policy on any admissions, the petition to the Supreme Court said. Fisher believes she was denied with even better academic merit standing than certain minorities, and a university, already being diverse, defied her constitutional right via discrimination. With diversity being handled well already, she felt that the school had no right to admit students not in the top 10% of their class by race. Texas Regents still judge there to be a lack of adequate diversity at UT. African Americans and Hispanics from largely segregated schools were admitted in greater number, but those in more mixed schools districts were denied admission, Eric Lewis stated. Due to the racial makeup of the high schools, the university believes that most of the minorities that are accepted under the law are from predominantly minority high schools. With affirmative action, they can increase the number of racially diverse students who would not have had the chance otherwise. In this photo, we can see supporters of affirmative action speaking out about their beliefs. The University of Texas argues that it must enroll a critical mass of underrepresented minority students for educational benefits of diversity to occur. According to Sidhu's comment in the Chronicle of Higher Education, because they believe whites are largely represented by means of the top 10% law, they strive to admit a more diverse class in order to enhance the university and give an equal opportunity to applicants. The University of Texas aims to seek a more diverse population through the affirmative action admissions, and it is not only for the sake of being a diverse school. One of the main arguments that Fisher made in the Fisher v. University of Texas case was that the affirmative action laws were unconstitutional, violating her 14th Amendment rights. In her first appeals to the circuit court, her attorneys argued that the panel was applying strict scrutiny to the race-based factor, Denniston, in a new test of college affirmative action, said. In the last pages of her appeal to the Supreme Court, it stated that if the circuit court's interpretation of that decision was correct, the Supreme Court's ruling should be clarified or reconsidered to restore the integrity of the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection, Denniston noted. She claimed to be a victim of reverse discrimination. Because Fisher felt she was denied due to her race, she felt the affirmative action law favored the minority and was the reason she did not get into UT. The university believes that using race as a factor for admission, as well as having a more ethnic student population, will create a more opportunity for groups that were historically underrepresented. With this opportunity comes an even greater opportunity for the students. While many Texas schools are minority segregated, each racial group hasn't had a chance to learn about the other. With a critical mass of students of the same race, however, those students will feel comfortable articulating their individual perspectives and opinions. As a result, they'll break down preconceived notions that members of racial communities share monolithic or predictable positions, Situ explained. A multitude of predispositions between each group exist, and the university believes that if these groups can intermix, any previous thoughts will disappear. As well as broadening the views of the students, they argue that it goes beyond that. These young adults will benefit and be prepared for diversity in the workplace and society, Santoro and Worth said. UT is not trying to admit via reverse discrimination, but to add it for a factor to benefit each college student. It's hard to grasp where the policy of affirmative action hits most. Race can easily be a factor in admission, but only under certain circumstances. Admitting people based on a plethora of information, with race being a part of that, would help develop a more ethnic background within institutions. Fisher claimed she was denied due only to the fact that she was white, while the university explicitly states that it uses many other factors. She may have felt discriminated against, but she failed to acknowledge that she could have lacked in other areas where other minority students prevailed. Thus concluding, there is value in affirmative action for the University of Texas with regulation to the policy. The 14th Amendment calls for equal protection, which did not include minorities for quite some time. Fisher was not discriminated against. It is possible she felt that way because she hasn't been in an environment where each American was considered equal before. The University of Texas seeks to admit students on a basis where race is included for reasons other than they don't want more whites in the school. Affirmative action can be a way to eliminate stereotypes and give chances to students who may have been overlooked beforehand.